At my father's retirement celebration, I arrived carrying a framed picture from my university commencement. It was just him and me, captured in a rare moment of connection. He glanced at it and said, "You think this night's about you?" I gave a small nod, placed the frame beside his expensive whiskey, and walked out without a word. 20 minutes later, my sister's name lit up my phone. "Why's the retirement fund locked?" she demanded. I kept my tone flat. "He said it's not about me." I ended the call. An hour later, my mother was banging on my door, yelling my name. I opened it and, without hesitation, handed her an envelope. It was a low blow, even for them. I hadn't expected much from the evening, but that night sharpened everything I'd suppressed for years into painful clarity. You pour everything into them, hoping one day they'll notice. Maybe they'll say thanks. Maybe they'll mean it, but I should have known better. That dinner only confirmed what I'd ignored for too long. My father's retirement party was at a fancy downtown steakhouse. Claire planned it naturally. She sent out e-invites like it was a corporate event, complete with a montage of Dad's work achievements and a custom cake with his firm's logo. It was all flash, no heart. I hadn't even planned to attend. But while sorting through boxes in my storage unit the week before, I found that old framed photo. It was from my college graduation, just us two. He had his arm around me, and I looked genuinely happy. I remembered that day vividly. It was one of the rare times I felt he truly saw me. So I showed up, dressed in a suit I hadn't worn since Mark's second court hearing for reckless driving. I walked in with the frame like it was a gesture of goodwill. They were all there, Claire, Mark, their kids glued to tablets, Mom chatting with one of Dad's former colleagues about home upgrades, Uncle Tom sipping wine like it gave him status. Everyone acting like we were a picture-perfect family, as if we didn't all barely stand each other. I approached Dad, handed him the photo silently. He studied it briefly, then met my gaze. "You think this night's about you?" I nodded, set the frame next to his overpriced drink, and left. No speech, no scene, just quiet. I was barely to my car when Claire called, of course. "Why's the retirement fund locked?" I stayed calm. "He said it's not about me." And I hung up. That fund? I'd been managing it for years, silently. Dad gave me control when he started forgetting logins and couldn't handle finances anymore. I was the one who kept their house out of foreclosure when Mark lost his job. Twice. I never complained, never asked for anything in return. They liked that. It let them pretend they were self-sufficient, but now the account was frozen. I'd revoked access 30 minutes before stepping into that restaurant. I drafted new terms, no more staying silent. An hour later, Mom was at my door, pounding like she owned the place. I opened it, handed her an envelope. "Read it," she froze, staring at me, so I closed the door. Inside that envelope were the notarized revocation papers, all legal. I was done playing games. The texts poured in after that. Mark. "Dude, this isn't right." Uncle Tom. "We need to discuss this." Claire. "Are you seriously doing this to your own family?" Funny. I'd asked myself that question countless times when I cleared their debts, when I wrote checks I couldn't afford, when I bylaid Mark out of trouble, even though he never reached out once he was clean. I did it all thinking family mattered, but they didn't see me. Not really. To them, I was a bank account with a poker face. Well, that face was done staying quiet, and this was just the start. The next morning, I woke to 17 missed calls, mostly Claire, a few from Mark, one from an unknown number, their lawyer, wanting to talk about the retirement fund. I ignored them all. By 9 a.m., my inbox had a message from Dad's company's HR department. Someone had tried to access his account using my login details. I knew who. Claire always thought she could charm her way past any barrier. Probably used her usual sob story, family crisis, urgent bills, Dad's confusion. What she didn't know was I'd changed everything. Passwords, security codes, backup access. I knew this was coming the moment Dad dismissed that photo, acting like my existence was a burden. That moment those words flipped a switch. Later that day, Mark showed up at my workplace. I wasn't shocked. My office is in a glass-fronted building with a clear view of the lobby. I saw him pacing outside before he worked up the nerve to come in. He wore that leather jacket I got him for his birthday 2 years back. He strolled in like we were old pals. "We just want to talk," he said. "In person." I told him in person was done. If he had something to say, email would do. He threw around phrases like family ties and loyalty, as if those ever mattered to him unless he needed a handout. I reminded him he still owed me over $8,000. He left 10 minutes later with nothing but a warning. "You'll regret this." I didn't flinch. By the time I got home, things had escalated. A note was slipped under my door in Mom's handwriting, unmistakable. No greeting. No warmth. Just a list of payments I'd covered for 3 years: groceries, medications, condo fees, Claire's phone, Mark's car insurance, even a new artisanal coffee subscription. At the bottom, she'd scrawled, "Are you really abandoning us like this?" Yes, I was. And then I started cutting ties. That night, I logged into every account linked to my name. The Netflix account with Mark's ridiculous profile name. Deleted. The Spotify Claire used for the kids. Canceled. The extra phone line on my plan for emergencies. Deactivated. I stopped the gas bill still in my name. Water, Wi-Fi, all of it. I'd been bankrolling their lifestyle for nearly a decade without realizing how entrenched I was. And the wildest part? They thought it was normal. No gratitude, no check-ins, no accountability. They called it love when they needed me. And betrayal when I stood my ground. The silence lasted 2 days, the longest they'd ever gone without manipulating me. I figured they were regrouping, plotting, but I saw the signs. Claire's social media turned vague. Posts like, "When someone you trust becomes a stranger with a checkbook," or "Some people need to grow up and see who really carried who." Then came the curveball. A cousin I rarely talked to messaged me on Instagram. Started friendly, asking if I was okay. Then it shifted. "Heard you took Dad's retirement money, is that true?" That's when I knew Claire and Mom had launched a full-on smear campaign. They were spinning the narrative live, painting me as the unhinged outcast who betrayed his family for no reason. They forgot I kept records, every transfer, every email, every bill I paid, every text where they begged for help and I gave it without question. So I started organizing, not to strike back, not yet, but because I knew what was coming: the victim act, the warped stories, the sudden intervention plans where I'd be the villain they needed to save themselves from. And just when I thought it couldn't get more absurd, Dad called. His voicemail was brief. "You've made your point. Now act like an adult." Act like an adult. That's what he said after I spent years cleaning up their messes. After I paid off Claire's credit cards, covered Mom's medical bills, got Mark out of jail, twice. I was the one who stayed steady when they crumbled, who handled business while they played helpless. Now I was done being their crutch. And they weren't ready for the drop. I wasn't going to vanish after cutting them off. That would have been too easy. No, I wanted them to feel every step of the distance. Gradually. By week 3, their tone shifted. The anger melted into desperation. The calls slowed, but the messages got slicker, more calculated. They weren't yelling anymore, they were scheming. Claire sent a video of my nephew holding a crayon-scribbled card. "We miss you, Uncle Dan." Sweet, staged, and totally fake. I paused it halfway. I could see Claire's shadow in the TV behind him, probably coaching his lines. 2 months ago, she told me not to come to her daughter's birthday because I was too volatile. Now she cared. The next day, I opened my door to find all 4 of them on my porch. Mom, Claire, Mark, and Uncle Tom, who I hadn't seen since he borrowed $6 grand. "Until next month," 3 years ago. "We just want to talk," Mom said. I didn't let them in. They tried to smile through it, acting like they weren't begging. Claire launched into a speech about miscommunications and family unity. Mark said he was ready to move on, like this was a mutual fight. Uncle Tom played the wise elder, spouting cliches about how money destroys what love creates. I let them talk, for 5 minutes. Then Claire said it. "We all have our roles, you've always been the reliable one." There it was, the truth slipping out. I asked her one question. "What does that mean?" She gave a shrug like it was obvious. "You're the one who keeps it all together." No, I was the one who made it look like it wasn't collapsing. I shut the door, didn't say another word. That night, I started digging. I still had access to the old cloud storage we used when I managed their finances. Every bill, transfer, payment notice, years of it. I spent 4 hours sorting it, labeling every file, color-coding by name. I created a folder called Family Financial Clarity and dumped it all in. Then I shared the link with them. No subject, no note. Within an hour, Claire called 5 times. I didn't answer. Mark left a voicemail. "You think this is a game?" Uncle Tom texted. "We need to fix this before it spreads." That told me everything. They were embarrassed, not for what they'd done, but because they couldn't hide it anymore. The cousin who messaged me. Probably got the link? Good. Let it spread. Let them justify the $7,000 I paid to keep Claire out of debt, or the Venmo requests where Mark asked for gas money while posting bar photos the same night. I was done covering for them, and I wasn't stopping. The next day, I had my lawyer finalize everything. Complete financial separation. My name off the house utilities. No more backup card for Mom. No more automatic transfers. I even rerouted the direct deposit, still partially going to the joint account Dad set up when I thought he trusted me. That afternoon, Mark sent an email with a one-line guilt trip. "Don't forget who gave you a place to stay when you were broke." I replied with a screenshot. A $1,000 transfer, 7 days after I got back on my feet, labeled for crashing on your couch, plus interest. He didn't respond. Then came their weakest move yet, an invite to a family meeting at Uncle Tom's. Casual, they said, just to work things out like adults. I RSVP'd yes. And that's when I started planning something they'd never forget. They set it for Sunday at 3 p.m. Uncle Tom's place. He made it sound like a relaxed gathering, but I knew it was a setup dressed in coffee and pastries. Still, I went. I parked across the street to keep them guessing. When I walked in, it was exactly as I'd predicted. Mom rigid on the sofa, Claire grinning like she was hosting a charity brunch, Mark lurking in the doorway like he was ready to explode. Uncle Tom played the impartial host, offering me a chair like we were negotiating world peace. "We're here because we care," he began. Claire jumped in. "We've all messed up, Dan, but this conflict, it's tearing us apart. You've made your point." They thought this was about a tantrum. They still didn't get it. Mark added, "This isn't you, man. You don't hold grudges." I asked if he'd paid back the grudge that cost me $4,300 and came with my name on court papers. His jaw tightened. I pulled out my phone and said, "Since we're being honest, let's be precise too." Then I started reading from the file I'd compiled. 10 years, every payment, every loan. Every just this once that turned into permanent silence once they got what they wanted. I listed amounts, dates, their own messages, screenshots of texts begging for help just this month, don't tell Dad, keep Mark out of it. Then I dropped the first bomb. I turned to Uncle Tom. "Still driving that BMW you keep in the garage," he frowned. "What's that got to do with anything?" "Remember when you used the title as collateral for the loan I covered?" Silence. "That was 6 years ago. 0 payments, it's mine now, title's in my name, it's being picked up Tuesday." He looked like I'd slapped him. Claire stood. "Are you kidding? You're taking family property?" I didn't look at her. "Same with Dad's vintage watch collection. The one in the safe, it's been appraised, going to auction." Mark laughed. "You're acting like some crime lord, you're pathetic." I smiled. "No, Mark, I'm just done." Then I tossed a USB drive onto the coffee table. "It's all there. Every receipt, every favor, every lie. Share it with the cousins, share it with your book club, share it with whoever you've been whining to about me betraying you. I'm not hiding anymore." I stood and headed for the door. But right before I left, Mom spoke, the line I knew she'd been holding. "You need help, Dan. This obsession with control, it's not normal." I turned. "You're filing for conservatorship," she looked smug. "You've been reckless, vindictive. You're clearly not stable." I almost laughed. She wasn't just trying to guilt me. She was trying to legally seize the assets I controlled. She wanted power. She thought calling me unhinged would break me, but I'd seen it coming. I nodded. "Hope you've got a good lawyer because now it's war." I left, got in my car, drove off like nothing happened. But while they sat there thinking I'd cracked, my lawyer was already building a counterclaim with proof they'd exploited me financially for years. They wanted control? Fine. I'd give them control of their own lives for the first time in a decade. No money, no cards, no safety net. Let's see how they manage when their reliable one vanishes, one responsibility at a time. By Tuesday, the BMW was gone. I didn't need to be there. The tow truck arrived at 9 a.m. as planned. Uncle Tom called 6 times in 10 minutes, voicemail shifting from rage to pleading. His 7th call came with a photo of the empty garage and the words, "You're out of your mind." I didn't reply. Instead, I focused on the next step. Mom's conservatorship filing hit the court the morning after the meeting. But calling someone incompetent when you've been leeching off them is a risky move, especially when they have a color-coded cloud folder of evidence. My lawyer and I filed a response. We attached years of texts, payments, even the message where Claire wrote, "Just say he's unstable, it'll make him back off." That was a gem. It was like watching them trip into their own trap. By Thursday, things unraveled faster than I'd expected. Claire's shared account with Mom? Frozen. I'd reported suspicious activity tied to my old authorizations. They'd never removed me from their joint expense account. One flagged transaction triggered a freeze. They called the bank. The bank called me. I confirmed the hold. That night, Mark showed up at my building. He didn't get in. I live in a secure complex now. The front desk called, said some guy was yelling about stolen funds and wrecked lives. I told them to call security. He was gone before they arrived. The next day, I mailed a letter. One to Mom, one to Claire, one to Dad. Inside was a single page, 4 words in bold. No more access granted. That weekend, they tried the nice act again. Claire texted photos of the kids asking if I'd come for dinner just to talk. Mom left a voicemail saying, "We can avoid court if you meet us halfway." Dad sent a vague email. "This is your last chance to fix this before it's permanent." They thought I was bluffing, so I made it real. Monday morning, I had a certified letter delivered to each of them. It included a final financial summary and a warning. Any further use of my name, identity, or financial history would lead to immediate legal action. Mark tried to post the letter online. Didn't work. I'd already reported him for harassment. His account was suspended by day's end. They were spiraling, and I wasn't done. While they scrambled to hold their lives together without my support, I reached out to a few old family acquaintances, the ones they'd badmouthed me to. I shared the cloud folder. No explanation. Let them figure it out. 3 reached out within a day. One, a cousin in Texas, left a voicemail. "I had no clue. You don't owe them anything, man." Exactly. I'd been their safety net, their scapegoat, their ATM for a decade. Now they had to stand alone, and the silence that followed was deafening. 2 weeks passed with no contact. No calls, no texts, no staged kid drawings, no desperate voicemails about family. I thought maybe they'd finally understood. Maybe the weight of their choices had hit them. Then I got the letter, not from them, from the IRS. A routine audit triggered by an anonymous tip questioning my financial activity, unreported income, fake deductions. The works. I knew who'd done it. Mark. He'd hinted at something like this during an argument 2 years back, saying he could make things messy if I ever crossed them. I thought it was just bluster. I underestimated their desperation. But here's the twist. The audit cleared me. I had every receipt, every transfer, every statement, plus a forensic accountant who'd reviewed my books 2 months earlier as a precaution. Not because I expected this move, just because I knew they wouldn't go quietly. I sent everything to the IRS, copied my lawyer, and the case was closed in 4 days. But now I had proof of their false claim, and we could trace it. My lawyer filed a harassment complaint and started preparing charges for malicious intent. That's when things flipped. One of Claire's old friends, someone I barely knew, messaged me. "Hey, I don't want to get involved, but Claire's saying you forged papers and exploited Dad's health." I thanked her and sent her the cloud link. 10 minutes later, she replied, "Wow, I'm so sorry. I didn't know." More messages followed, one from Mark's ex, one from Uncle Tom's old colleague, even a guy Dad knew from work years ago. They all said the same thing. They'd heard their version first. But now, with my evidence, the story shifted. I hadn't expected that. I knew they'd lie. I didn't expect their audience to care enough to seek the truth. And then the biggest shock. A handwritten letter from Dad, not a text, not a call, a letter. He said he didn't approve of my actions, said I'd humiliated the family and made things public. But in the final line, he wrote, "You were right. We treated you like a tool, not a son. I don't know how to make it right." I stared at that line for a long time. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel angry either. I just felt done. That night, I wrote a final email. Sent it to all of them. No rage, no threats. Just the truth. I said I forgave them. Not because they deserved it, but because I wasn't carrying their weight anymore. I said I wouldn't respond to any more messages. No more family meetings. No more access. No more discussion. I wished them well, then sent the email. And for the first time in over a decade, I felt free. Because sometimes the only way to win is to walk away and make sure the door locks behind you. The update. 6 months later. No calls. No texts, not a sound. They got the message. I moved to a new apartment, smaller, calmer, with no shared keys or linked bills. Only 2 friends and my accountant know the address. It's not hiding, it's freedom. The BMW? Sold. I used the money for a 2-week solo trip through the Rockies. Drove with no map, no plan. Stayed in quiet towns, ate alone, hiked trails where no one knew me. I rediscovered what peace without strings feels like. Last week I ran into my cousin Sarah at a cafe. She hugged me, said I looked like a new man. Told me Claire tried sending a group apology letter but scrapped it when no one replied. Apparently she's in real therapy now, not the performative kind she used to flaunt online. Mark, no one's heard much. Word is he's crashing with a friend after another car was repossessed. Not mine, someone else's, patterns repeating. Uncle Tom sold his house. Quietly. No fanfare, no farewell, Mom and Dad, still together, still bitter from what I hear. Still blaming everyone else for their problems, but here's the surprise, I'm good, not just fine, good. I don't brace myself when I check my accounts. I sleep without expecting a midnight crisis call. I move through life without that invisible chain around me. And the other day, I did something I hadn't in years. I framed a new photo. Just me on a cliff smiling at the horizon. It sits on my shelf now. Quiet, simple, and this time no one else is in it. So, what are your thoughts on this story? Do you agree with what happened or do you see it differently? Let us know your opinion in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of our upcoming stories. See you in the next one.